So we're heading into the skeleton cave now. There's a lot of skeletons in here, and as in the previous game, there's a necromancer that controls these skeletons, and you have to take the necromancer out in order to destroy the skeletons, or they'll keep coming back to life. But the best idea is to take them out first, because if you just run in there and look for the necromancer, there'll be 5 or 6 skeletons on you and the necromancer, which is pretty hard to deal with unless you have an AoE weapon like the halberd, the golem halberd, where you could do a 360 attack, as I was saying. That would be good for this type of area. So I ran back out here because I didn't like the look of that area. See all the dead bodies burning there. Very nice scenery and backdrop. It's a lot more detailed for sure than the previous game. I don't know how they've improved the graphics on a 7-year-old console. It's insane. And I don't think they're releasing this on PS4, maybe later down the line. They're releasing it on PC, and the graphics should be even better on PC, but they look really amazing on this. And this is PS3 that I was playing this on. That says a lot. It's going to be a great game. I can't wait to play the full thing. And I guarantee I will definitely be doing a let's play of that. I might actually do a walkthrough, because I haven't actually done any walkthroughs. So I'd have to play the game ahead, then come back, and then record my walkthrough session after learning how to play the game. So see this guy, it comes behind. Enemies tend to ambush you also. They'll be hiding behind other pathways across bridges. They can be hiding on top of rocks across the way, and they'll come once you pull one. There's like a pack sometimes that can be spread out from different directions, so you gotta watch your back. They can flank you from behind, they can come from the side. There can be archers up on the rocks firing down at you at the same time, so you can get very easily into a rut and start to panic, and then the enemies will overwhelm you, basically. Like here, there's an item right there, and I almost got killed because I was busy picking up the item and looking at the item whilst these enemies came from the shadows. Basically, I couldn't see any enemies there. Looked like dead bodies, but they come to life, and they're so well camouflaged you don't take notice of them. So you gotta take notice of these things. In this game, you gotta keep your senses sharp and look around at all times. Enemies die with 2 blows from that Zweihander, so it's a very powerful weapon. They die with about 4 or 5 blows from the short sword, which is a lot faster, but see him hiding behind the tree there? You don't want to get too close because he's in between 2 trees. My Zweihander's actually hitting the trees because it's so big. I think it's actually bigger than the previous game. In Demon Souls it was the Great Sword, and then in Dark Souls it was changed to the Zweihander, and in Dark Souls 2 it's back. I'm glad to see it back because it was one of the best weapons, even though I got lucky and got the Black Knight Sword, Black Knight Great Sword, which was probably a little bit better than this, and it's scaled with strength the same way this does. I think it was it B scaling? The higher up it scales. Like if it was A scaling it would be amazing for strength, but I don't think there was anything that A scaled with strength. B scaling was the best as far as I know. C scaling would be a bit worse, then D scaling would be a bit worse, E scaling would be worse. And if I had nothing, then it would not scale with strength, like it was NA or just blank. So there's a waterfall here. Unfortunately I didn't see there's a path behind that waterfall. I don't know how I didn't see that. I must be blind. And there's pathways like this blocked off, which will obviously be open in the future, or maybe not, because that might have been linked to that looked like the boss portal, which actually was behind that waterfall. There's some camouflaged paths in these games, and it can be quite annoying because you don't see them. You think that's a dead end, but it's like an optical illusion. You can't see around the corner. So you see these guys, there's a Dark Wraith. There's actually 2 of these guys, you'll see me run up here, and there's another one there, and I'm like, oh shit, are you kidding me? And I wish I'd known there's a path up here. I could have ran round and actually avoided those guys. So I take a life gem. So I don't know what's the deal with these dark rays, these red enemies. They're only supposed to be present in New Game Plus and Dark Souls, so maybe they've changed that for Dark Souls 2. Now they'll be present, and that'll make things a lot harder. Maybe they just didn't want people coming this way for the network test. So I got absolutely obliterated there. 2 of those guys, bad news, big time. Very hard to deal with. If you had a party of 3, it would be pretty easy. So you could summon some friends, but unfortunately multiplayer wasn't available, as I said before. So we skip ahead a bit here. I just wandered around, basically, and didn't see anything new. Everything new I saw is included in this gameplay. So I'm looking through my inventory here, using up these souls. I acquired 2 souls. Soul of a Nameless Soldier. Didn't see how many souls I got from that. I don't think it was too many. This must be quite early game, although I'm level 30ish at this point, so it can't be that early. And you start off about level 11. See, the Radiant Life Gem recovers HP. Also got some ooze, which is can be applied to your weapon. I actually managed to apply it to a 2-hander. It said to your right hand weapon. So we're in Huntsman's Corpse, that's what this place is called. Huntsman's Corpse. But in this game you seem to be able to apply weapon enchants to a 2-hander, even though it says right hand weapon. In Dark Souls you could only use the golden pine resin on a 1-handed weapon. Well, obviously you can use all weapons as 1-handed or 2-handed. But it had to be equipped as a 1-hander. You couldn't use it on a 2-hander. I didn't seem to actually be able to ever use it properly. But in this game it seems to just apply. I think I had it set to 2-hand and it just applied it. Straight on. Didn't seem to increase the damage too much. We got some rogue armor, which is for thief. But we didn't see the thief class, we only saw hunter and didn't even see bandit, so that's kind of weird. So I'm going back to this area. I like the way they shout noob. Yeah, they tend to jump back and be a little more unpredictable enemies in this game. But you can still learn their patterns. Yeah, apparently they actually created a new graphics engine for the game, and that's why it looks different. And that was created to address frame rate issues, which is very important for this game, because frame rate, I mean, that's like, it's a hard game, so you need a stable frame rate for dealing with bosses. Not lagging out and then getting lag deaths, which are terrible. So PC will run at about 60 frames per second and console will run at 30. PC was capped at 30 when they released it about a year ago, August 2012 that was. Console will run at 30 because all console games run at 30 FPS. Don't know about PS4, how many FPS that'll be. Apparently characters will not be carried over from Dark Souls into the sequel, but some content will. But we're not clear on how or what that is. And it's not a direct sequel to Dark Souls. The player will embark on a journey to remove themselves from the affliction of a curse. We've got bonfires and covenants and gestures which return. And online interaction will be server based. And it's not clear if that will be region based or not yet. I didn't actually find a torch, but apparently there's a torch system, and I did see people using that. I didn't find a torch. I don't know if you have to... There were braziers, maybe if you just approached the brazier and pressed X, it would give you a torch, but I don't remember finding a torch. Because there's a lot of darkness, and that's apparently a big feature of the game, darkness. So you need a torch. So you will need a torch in the main game to actually see where you're going. And see, like I found an area where there was just total darkness and it looked like a dead end, but you could drop down below. You wouldn't think you could drop down below, but you could hear enemies, and I was wondering, where are those enemies? And they're actually down below, and there's a little area down below with a chest in it and everything. So that was a nice find. So with a torch you could actually see probably down there. And yeah, the white mist will perform the same gateway function that fog walls performed in Dark Souls and Demon Souls. And apparently their goal is to get players to feel emotional fright of areas, and also to have enemies elicit emotions in the players. Basically fright, I guess, from them being blended in with the environment. The new feature is key mouths. I didn't come across these, but it's a stationary large square stone with a petrified looking face upon it. The face is simplistic in design with 2 empty eye sockets and an open mouth. You have the option of placing objects. So far the only known one is the magic stone into the mouth to cause different effects. It appears to focus on changing the world around you, such as lighting up an area that was previously dark. That's awesome, so you couldn't see before, but then you insert a stone and it will make the area light up and you can see everything. This may be a return to the idea of tendencies in a more manual manner in Dark Souls 2. It is possible they will make the game more difficult, easier, or even just change the types of enemies and items found within the area. So key mouths are new and trigger in-game events. You can use different items while moving, and you can fire an arrow while walking apparently, which is an interesting change. It'll make hunters more viable, I guess, so you can actually fight bosses with a bow and arrow maybe. Although you could before, you could just stand way back and fire, but you had to remain stationary as far as I know, because it does say that's a new feature, that you can move while firing an arrow. Enemies have the ability to backdrop and throw their weapons at players. That's interesting, so they can throw their weapon. The player, you're able to cycle through 3 pieces of equipment in each hand. So instead of 2, you can have 3 different pieces of equipment. That's a nice change, because you could have a halberd, you could have a short sword, and you could have a long sword, or an ultra sword. And your roll speed is determined by which weapon you have equipped apparently. And that's rather than the total equipment burden, so it's determined by your weapon now. That's kind of a weird change. I think I preferred it being... It was more realistic with total equipment burden. It is a peculiar departure from the first 2 Souls games, wherein all equipped items counted towards your roll speed. It is also entirely possible that the roll speed of the character is based on the overall weight of equipment. I would assume that would be more accurate. They wouldn't do that just based on the weapon. That would be too easy to exploit. You could just cycle back and forward between weapons. That would mean that if equipment is in a slot but not in the main hand, it may not count towards the player's total weight. Yeah, the healing gems, as I mentioned, that regen health slowly, are a new feature, and they seem to drop very frequently from enemies. Yeah, very frequent drops actually, but I did use them up quite often, so they were very useful. Dual wield class will have a power stance initiated instead of two-handing a weapon, so you have 2 weapons always, and you initiate a berserker stance. It seems like power stance, berserker stance sounds like to me. That's interesting. So there's obviously defensive, and it would be good to have a defensive mode and a berserker attack mode, where you're just like a glass cannon going at enemies. Like for bosses you would need that, although if you want to play defensive you can play defensive, but it's better usually to play offensively against bosses. Kick has been replaced with a shoulder shunt, if I can say that. Shoulder shunt, my god, say that 10 times fast. Shoulder shunt, 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 shoulder shunt. And From Software has said starting classes have changed. The game will monitor your stat allocation and suggest a class based on your trajectory. So why did they have you choosing classes in the beta? So it's kind of like Skyrim. The game will monitor your stat allocation and suggest a class based on your trajectory. That's weird. Kind of a nice change though. So as I said, it's not a follow-up to Dark Souls. It's called Dark Souls 2, but it will feature a new hero, a new storyline, and an unfamiliar world for players to survive in, while delivering its signature brand of unrelenting punishment that players hunger for. And multiplayer is going to be tweaked. Yeah, it has been tweaked because it's a lot easier to... You kind of have to become human, so it's going to make multiplayer more accessible and people want to actually use multiplayer more, because if they're turning human, you want to have 2 other people there in case you get invaded, for one thing. And if those dark wraiths are going to remain in areas, there's a lot of those enemies. There's red dark wraith enemies which are impossible almost to solo, unless you're just hardcore. But yeah, it would be a lot easier with 3 players. And I saw the first boss was actually split into 3 characters, and there were ads as well. So there's 3 main enemies, and then they've got little enemies like cartwheels and skeletons, and 3 big skeletons. So it'll be a lot easier with 3 people. You could split the ads up, you could split the 3 main boss guys up, and it would be so much easier to deal with. You just get overwhelmed on your own, especially with half a bar health, with 3 guys and a load of ads coming at you at the same time, and spells coming at you. Pretty crazy. The game's publisher Namco is promising a game full of unrelenting challenge, so it's going to be challenging. Just like the previous titles, it does seem more challenging in some respects. The release date is 11th for the USA, 11th of March, 14th of March for EU. On PC it's going to be released soon after the console versions, so we don't know exactly when, but soon after. And there's a new mechanic, stun. Once your stamina bar is depleted, if you're hit, you'll enter a state of stun or dizziness. During this time you can't do anything, but other players can perform a finisher move similar to a counter attack. That's pretty crazy. So it's kind of like in Mortal Kombat, where it's like finish him, you get stunned and then you can do a finisher. Wonder what the finishers are going to look like. I haven't seen those. And with HP, your maximum HP will diminish as you die, as you're hollow, I guess that means. And you won't be able to go lower than 50% of your maximum HP. I think that means above 50%. So yeah, when you're hollow, your HP will diminish down to 50% gradually. So you'll end up with half a bar of health, which isn't good.